puppies in particular, what's the prep that you can do before you even have one picked out, before you've put a deposit with one down on, with a breeder or whatever that looks like? We're going to talk about just some things that you can do to prep well if a puppy is going to be home.
Welcome to another fabulous episode of the Crunchy Carnivore Podcast. I'm Dr Levy. I'm a holistic veterinarian, and I'm here today with Melissa Weidenhammer, natural rearing dog breeder and certified canine nutritionist. And today we're going to talk about puppies. Who doesn't love puppies? But what we want to talk about today is things to think about and things to have a handle on before you get the puppy. Mm-hmm. Before you get the puppy. I remember reading somewhere that dogs and cats are like, really with those animals, people will go out and buy a puppy or a kitten, and then on the way home, they have this conversation like, where are we going to keep it? What are we going to feed it? Mm-hmm. Oh, you know what? We should get a collar. We'll probably need a bowl. And this is kind of unique because you can't really do that with other animals. You don't go out and buy a horse and on the way home have a conversation about where you're going to keep it and what it's going to eat. And yet people do this with dogs and cats all the time. Mm-hmm. And so ideally, we're just going to present some ideas so that you can have a little bit of forethought because you're bringing home a living, breathing animal who needs care and attention. And many of us are already quite busy. And so, like, technically, does anybody need a puppy? No. And yet, we love dogs and we love having dogs and we do go out and get puppies.
Mm-hmm. Well, puppies are wonderful.
They are.
They are wonderful. So first, it's really, start asking yourself some questions. And again, we just want to highlight some things that not everybody thinks about. And so, maybe some of this is not foreign to you. Maybe it's like, oh, that's a good idea to think about. So the first thing, the first question you need to ask yourself is why? Why do you want a puppy? Why do you want a dog? What's the purpose for that? And I think, kind of square one, everybody goes right to, well, I'm going to get a puppy. But sometimes a puppy's not the best option, or you don't really need to do that. And maybe an older dog is a better option. And so I think the very first question after why do I want a puppy or a dog is, should it be a puppy or an older dog, right?
Sometimes I see people with, if you have small children or something like that, I often think if you go to a humane society and get a Labrador Retriever that's between 4 and 6 years old, man, those dogs are worth their weight in gold. They're potty trained, they're kid proof. And sometimes, like in some cases, that's going to be more fitting than a baby. That if you already have a human baby in the house, you will have another baby who needs kind of equal amounts of attention.
That's really good things to think about in respect to, you kind of need to think too of the puppy. So this is a huge thing for me because I was a breeder. And so this is kind of my world. But sometimes people would think I want to get a puppy when my children are small so the puppy can grow with my children. And that's a beautiful thought and I get it. But at the same time, if you have a 2-year-old that is really hard to communicate to the 2-year-old how to behave with this puppy, they're going to wreck the puppy. Like there's going to be interactions there that are going to build things into that puppy that you do not want to experience as an adult. You can create a neurotic basket case. You can create a fearful dog. You can create an aggressive dog. You can create a bitey dog. There's a lot of things that can be set up with the way that a child interacts with a puppy. You're training that puppy with every interaction. Everything you do with that puppy is training them, good or bad. So you really have to stop and think, as much as I understand like the warm fuzz, like I get it too, like the warm fuzzies of this adorable puppy growing with my young children. Think about the puppy too, and think about really what kind of dog are you raising? Because that puppy is only a puppy for a minute, and then you have, God willing, 15 to 20 years if you raise it correctly with that dog. So something really good to think about is just to stop and think, is a puppy the right decision, or would it maybe be better to go for an older dog? And two, even if maybe you found a really good breeder that you want a puppy from, and then you think about it, you're like, man, I probably shouldn't get a puppy. There are excellent ethical breeders out there that have older dogs that are going to need homes. You know, they're not super old, but they're not puppies, and they've been very well taken care of. The training has been done. They're rock solid dogs. Maybe that's a good option for you. So that's something that I think a lot of people don't realize. And I remember, I'm going to touch on this really quick. We're just going to talk about it. We're going to talk about breeders for a minute, because that was me. And I come from that world. Breeders are demonized. We have become, in a lot of eyes of the dog world, the devil. And unfortunately, in the motivation of a good thing, which is that there are a lot of dogs that need to be rescued and need good homes, which is 100% true. There is also a lot of reasons why people don't feel comfortable rescuing a dog. And I think we need to really remove that stigma and realize that there are good breeders out there that are doing excellent job to raise healthy puppies that are well balanced, they're socialized, they make great family pets. Those are the safer options. If you go the natural rearing route, you're heading a lot of health problems off at the pass, because they're getting real food, they're not getting inundated with toxins. You're not going to have cancer show up at 18 months old. Like, that's real. And so I just feel like taking the stigma out of breeder versus rescue, this adopt, don't shop mentality, is very damaging to the dog world. And it's just one more way that people are divided. It's one more way people attack each other. And I understand being passionate, but there is just something about it where to try and take a step back and remove some of the emotion to see that there is value in both, and there are healthy, good ways to do both, and we need both.
So something to think about too is, when you think about yourself, you picture yourself with your future dog, because again, it's going to be a puppy for 5 minutes, and then you're going to have a dog. When you picture yourself with your dog, what are you doing? I never thought that I would compete with the dog until my friends started doing it, and then I wanted to be one of the cool kids. So it might seem something that's far-fetched, but it's fun to like just go go to an agility trial, go to a dog show. Like both of those kind of also stimulated me to say, wow, like these people are having a lot of fun. I want to have a lot of fun. So it's kind of neat to go around in the dog world and see what's possible. Or maybe you're a diehard camper and hiker and that's your thing. You're going to want a dog that can do those things with you. And so those are considerations about what kind of dog you're going to get. How is your life going to be with that dog? And I will say, because I've heard this come out of the mouth of my own family members, you cannot realistically get a dog or a puppy for your child and really think that that child is going to be responsible for the dog. You are the mom. This is going to be your dog. Do not get a dog unless you want one. Your kids are going to grow up. They are, this is part of childhood and adolescence, is being irresponsible and unreliable. And they're going to, graduate and leave the house, and you're going to end up with a dog. And so honestly, mothers out there, don't get a dog if you don't want one.
But one thing that I love that you said, that you've said before is, and you just, I think, mentioned it, when you're really honing in on the age of the dog, right? Puppy or adult, or the type of breed that you may want to be looking into. What do you see yourself doing with the dog? And I love that question, because you have to be honest with yourself and be realistic in what are you expecting. Because that really is going to determine, especially when researching breeds, which is the next thing we're going to talk about, that's a really important piece. And that can either make or break a decision. You can't go based on looks. And I think a lot of people make that mistake, and then they end up in a really bad situation. They're very frustrated. There's things happening with the dog that, nobody wants to see happen. For example, with the dogs that I bred, they were a bulldog breed. They were a bulldog. A lot of people that would come and seek out my breed, they wanted something that looked kind of like a standard English bulldog, but was healthy. And so when they would come to me, they would have the misconception that this is just a healthy standard English bulldog that looks a little bit different.
AKA couch potato.
AKA couch potato. That is not what I have. That is not what I bred. They're considered a working breed. They can be very high drive. They're incredibly athletic. They can be couch potatoes with you, but that is not the bulk of their existence. They want to be doing something. Give me something to do. Let me use my mind. Give me something to pull, chew, tug. Like they're not healthy standard English. They are a old English bulldog. They are a recreation of the bull baiting dog. So that kind of gets us into the next thing. Like when you're researching breeds, it is excellent to research that breed and go back. Every breed was designed or created. I shouldn't say designed. That could be a trigger word. Created for a purpose. Every breed was created for a purpose. Go figure out what that breed was created for. That is really going to help navigate your decision, as you're deciding where you land in that search before you even get to looking for a breeder.
Yeah, and be careful about taking examples from dogs who you've met in your life and thinking that your dog is going to be just like that. So just because your next door neighbor has a border collie that is a wonderful therapy dog, most border collies are not, right? Because they are a herding breed. They will chase your children. They will nip at their heels. They will chase bicycles. They can't help themselves. It's bred into them. So to think that you're going to breed that drive out of a dog who is bred for that purpose, I would not be so quick to think that. Everything that dogs were bred for is based on drive. And so drive is all based on hunting drive, prey drive, that desire of dogs to go after something, do the thing, be willing to tackle a bull. That's why sometimes people wonder about, why are dachshunds so barky and yappy? I love dachshunds because they are brave. These are dogs that were bred to go to ground. They will dive into a hole in the ground. They have no idea what could be in there, but they're going in there thinking, I don't care what's in there, I'm going to kill it. And so that's why your dachshund is not intimidated by you. And you have to think, there's that gutsiness that they were bred for. And so you got to kind of decide, do I want that in a dog? How would it be if I had to live with that every day? And so, I have 4 dogs right now, but 2 of them are 2 different types of shepherds that were bred for different types of work. And so understanding what they were bred for and their backgrounds kind of helps me manage my expectations for them. What are they going to be like? So I think that is useful. So again, even if you meet a Tibetan Terrier at the park and it's so cute and so loving, it licked your face, they're not all like that. I have met people who have gone to dog shows and asked every breeder, what is your breed like? What is your breed like? And every breeder has told them, this is an excellent family pet. Go read more about the breed. They're not all excellent family pets.
No, and another thing too, just to touch on really quick, whatever the dog was bred to do, make sure that you are willing and able to give them an outlet that replicates what they were bred to do. It is going to save you so much. It's going to make everything much more fulfilling for your life, for the dog's life. There's going to be less frustration. You will probably end up, heading off at the pass certain like behavioral issues because the dog's not going to be frustrated. And so just as an example with my breed, again, it was the recreation of the bull baiting dog, which was a terrible sport. I'm glad they outlawed it. It was a long time ago. And so when they outlawed bull baiting, the breed went extinct because that was what they were bred for. Well, then a gentleman by the name of David Levitt came back on the scene in the 70s and said, this is how bulldogs are meant to be built, but I want to recreate this in a way that could be a good family pet. So in that recreation of the bull baiting dog, as much as they are much more, they are very affectionate. Gemma is like, she wishes she could be in my pocket half the time, okay? At the same time, the genetics are the genetics, and he did kind of put together breeds that mimicked that original bull baiting dog. My dogs love to rip, tear, pull, chew, bite, run. Like they need those outlets. And so I, love things like tug pulls for them when it's age appropriate. They can grab, they can pull, they can do whatever they want. Tug in certain respects. We have tug toys. They have great impulse control. We make sure to train them in that. But when they want to go at it, we let them tug. We make sure they have lots of hard things, not hard things, but durable things that they have to chew through, natural things, of course. These are all outlets that satisfy what they were originally designed to do so that they can be more of what I want, which is sit with me on the couch, take a nap with me, watch me while I work, I'm not out there doing weight pull and all these awesome dog sports that are great. That's just not me in my life. Right. So that's just a good example of what we're talking about when you want to make sure that you can kind of recreate and give them an outlet for what they're bred for.
What kind of things would you ask a breeder?
Okay, so this can be a long list. It can be as long of a list as you want it to be. And I'm actually, if you go into our stand store, you will find a kind of a breeder checklist that I've put together. It is not exhaustive. These are just things that, coming from the breeding world and also doing things naturally. These are things that would be important to me. If I were to go to another breeder for a dog that I did not breed myself, these are things that I would want to know. So, one of the first things that I'm going to want to know is there some sort of program in place for your puppies that is for socialization and training purposes? Puppy Culture is what I used. I love that program. It is very thorough and it hits a lot of different areas of development. And so I know there are other ones out there. I think Badass Breeders is another program that's out there. But Puppy Culture was just my favorite. And you hit everything from introduction to sounds, walking on different surfaces, introducing them to small children at the right age where they're in a certain developmental window. ENS, which is early neurological stimulation, I believe is what the acronym is for. There's all sorts of things that we can do in the 8 to 10 to 12 weeks, however long you keep your puppies, that makes a tremendous impact for the rest of their life. So some sort of program to raise the puppies. Are they raised indoors is a great question. Are they raised out in an outdoor kennel? And sometimes they are, but it's a wonderful setup. So just because they're in an outdoor kennel does not necessarily mean it's bad. It's good to know, where are the puppies raised? And ours was just always in our home, and we had kind of a puppy area in our home. What do you feed them? That is such an important question from my perspective. The foundation of the health is the diet. And so when they are done eating from mom, what are they eating? And what are they going to go home eating? I want to know that. That is very important to me. What do you do for prevention? There's immunizations and there's deworming and that kind of stuff. What do they do for that? If you're a more holistically minded person, you're going to listen for things like they use supplements, they use natural dewormers like feeding rabbit ears or using ground pumpkin seeds or a digestive protocol. Like there's all sorts of ways to deworm without chemicals. Of course, we are very big proponents for homeoprophylaxis, which is using homeopathy to immunize versus actual vaccines. Do they microchip is a great question. You know, that was an issue that was raised in the Super Dog Summit that we were a part of. There's a lot to be questioned about the safety of microchips. I personally would never microchip another puppy. I did it, I think, for the first year or litter or two. And then I learned there was an EMF factor and stuff. And I was like, ooh, this might be a problem. So I just quit microchipping, and I'm glad that I did. I'm glad that I quit microchipping. So, you know, is microchipping a thing? What else do we have?
If you look at some of the big organization websites like AKC and the UKC, the United Kennel Club, potentially even the CKC, the Canadian Kennel Club, it's worth looking at these websites to see what the recommended testing is for that breed, whether they tend to have problems with their hips or with elbow dysplasia or certain genetic conditions like degenerative myelopathy testing. Because that way you might have some idea, not necessarily that your dog is going to have those problems, but what problems are prevalent within the breed if there's a test for them. And then ask the breeder, do you do any of these testing? Have you had your dogs x-rayed so that you know if they have hip dysplasia or not?
And then ask for proof of that, because people can say anything.
That's true.
People can say anything. And so if it is a good breeder, they are going to happily send you some sort of proof that these things were done. They're going to be proud of it. And they went to the trouble to do it. They're happy to show you. If it is a good breeder that is doing their due diligence, they are going to love that you're asking, and they're going to show you the proof is in the pudding. Like, I've got it right here. So that's something I'd say.
And then also, what is the breeder breeding for? So some breeders are breeding for show. Some are breeding hunting breeds, and they're breeding them for hunting purposes. Some people are breeding hunting breeds as pets, and they're not expected to be able to perform in a hunting atmosphere. And so that is worth asking. And it's not necessarily a make or break, but it just helps this person, maybe the parent dogs did not have a high hunting drive, but they were so pretty or they were such nice dogs that the breeder wanted to breed them anyway. Breeding for temperament is okay.
100%.
And so one of my dogs was bred for performance, and she is a complete nut job. And the other one was bred for temperament. He's not registerable because the parents aren't registered. But he is a really nice puppy. And that's what the breeder was aiming for. Good family pets. That's what you got.
A huge piece is how experienced is the breeder? How long have they been doing this? If they are newer to it and there's only been a couple of litters, do they have a mentor? Is a great question. Anybody who gets into breeding for the right reasons is going to want somebody who is experienced to teach them. I remember getting into it, and I was so nervous about doing things wrong. I was like, I can't do this unless I have somebody showing me who's done this a bunch of times. Like, I had to be confident. I needed that from somebody else. And so if they're not very experienced, that's okay. But do they have a mentor that's helping them so that those things are, things like traction in the whelping box? That's a huge one that people miss. Traction in the whelping box. Is there something right away for these puppies to grip onto with the surface so that they can get their feet under them? If there's not, you're asking for hip dysplasia. There's tiny things like that are big things that if you don't have somebody that's experienced showing you or experience doing it are going to be missed, and you're going to pay for it in the long run. So are they experienced? If they're not, who's their mentor, and are they experienced, right? You can kind of take that. And then the last thing that I'll say, because we could go on and on about this, and again, you can find a list in our stand store, I'll link it below, is can they give you references from previous puppy families?
Oh, yeah.
Can they give you references? I did that a number of times. My families were wonderful. They were more than happy to have people call them and talk to them about their experience with us, their experience with the dogs as it grew. And so references from puppy families is huge. So that's another thing I would say. But just do your due diligence to make sure that the breeder that you're getting this dog from knows what they're doing. They have experience. They're willing to answer your questions. Are they good at communication? That's a big one too. And check out the Listener Stand store for a more complete list of what you can kind of have as a breeder checklist.
And there's a ton of different places to get dogs. There's Craigslist. I know a lot of people hate that. There are a lot of people that try to shut down every pet ad that shows up on Craigslist. I had a great dog who I got off of Craigslist because, shockingly enough, there are loads of people out there who go out and get a puppy, bring it home, and then find out that they are not supposed to have a puppy in their apartment. And so there are decent dogs out there who need homes just for random reasons. I've seen cases where the roommate ended up with somebody's dog because, somebody moved out.
And they didn't want a dog.
Yeah, and so they're just looking for a home for it. They're not mean or horrible people, and they don't know, where do I find somebody to take this dog off my hands? Craigslist sometimes is the answer for those people. And so this kind of thing happens constantly. Kids move into the house, bring a dog with them, move out, leave the dog. Grandma doesn't want the dog. And so there's all sorts of reasons why dogs need homes. Obviously, there's tons of rescues out there. Some of these rescues are wonderful and they're very diligent. They take excellent care of their dogs. Some of them are just they get the dogs in and move them out into new homes so fast that they're not really doing their due diligence. But, all dogs need homes. And to some extent, it's like that attraction, that this is the dog for you. I remember when I was running Humane Society, at one adoption event, we had this dog who I named him Duster. He was this big, lanky, sort of lab-looking thing, kind of a dusty black. And he was just sort of a random dog. There was nothing super special about him. And this woman walked into the adoption event, saw him, and she was like, "That is my dog." And she adopted him on the spot. And it was great.
I love that.
Because he wasn't the super pretty, he wasn't super young, he wasn't super fun.
But there was a connection.
Yeah, and
I love that.
So that kind of thing, I would say, I bought one of my dogs because she was a pretty face on the internet. There you go. Choices. Bad choices.
We learn. It's okay. It's okay. So next, let's kind of talk about, preparation. If you are going to do a puppy, if you are going to bring home a puppy, and some of this you obviously have to think about if you're bringing home a grown dog as well, but really, puppies in particular, what's the prep that you can do before you even have one picked out, before you've put a deposit with one down on, with a breeder or whatever that looks like? We're going to talk about just some things that you can do to prep well if a puppy is going to be home. I was huge on this. I was in contact with my families months before the mom was even pregnant.
Wow.
I was and then, once pregnancy was confirmed, we were prepping. I was sending them information because, again, if you're a natural rearing breeder, you're not just a breeder, you're an educator. And that is just part of the role. And we embrace it, but it is it's just a whole nother level of work.
Right. And so what that means is the day that you go get the puppy, that's not the day that you meet the breeder.
No.
You've met the breeder months before. And hopefully they've taught you some stuff about what you're expected to feed. Where's your puppy going to sleep? What kind of tools are you going to need? Leashes, collars, etc.
Yep. So one of the things that we can talk about first really quick, this is an easy one, is to make sure you're armed with good information that you can read ahead of time and be prepared for the puppy. I'm going to lift up this book first. This is The Natural Rearing, Breeding and Raising Dogs the Way Nature Intended. This was written by Dr. Jeannie Thomason, who has unfortunately since passed. But this is a phenomenal book. It is not just for breeders. This is just great information on everything from, she does talk about how to take care of your breeding dogs really well. And so even if that gives you insight and you're holistically minded, how are the parents taken care of? That is a big question. That's an important question. But all the way through puppies and nutrition and what should be done with them. This is a fantastic natural rearing resource for understanding puppies that I would recommend to anybody to read. I don't care if you're a breeder or not. I love this book. That also leads me to, there is an association, there's a community of breeders that do things all this way. There's a code of ethics, they are vetted. all the things. I was a member of that. I mean, I technically still am, even though I'm not breeding. I'm very involved with the organization, and that's the Natural Ring Breeder Connection. There's a whole directory of breeders that are committed to doing things this way, and I cannot stress enough, go check the directory. Like, I'm of the mindset where if there's a certain breed that I'm interested in and I go to that directory and I can't find a breeder that does that breed, then I'll pick a different breed, because I want the puppy raised a very certain way. Right. So that's just me and where I come from, but that book is amazing. And then you were going to mention something else.
All the guides on our stand store, those things are worth purchasing in advance and reading through them before you bring the puppy home and actually put them into practice. So the raw feeding transition guide, homeoprophylaxis for puppies, there's loads of information there, the quick start guide, that help you kind of get in the mind frame of what is it going to be like to have a naturally reared puppy, because obviously that's what we think we should do.
Yeah. And so we've actually, the biggest areas of raising a dog naturally are going to be what you feed them, how you immunize them, and what you do for parasite prevention. So we have created a guide for each of those things. They all have special considerations for puppies, and we have actually, you can buy them individually, or we've bundled the 3 of them together so that you can get all that you need. It's like the natural rearing puppy starter pack, dog starter, like it is everything that you really, really need right off the bat together. And so I highly encourage you to get those ahead of time, and also know, as of right now, we don't have our own homeoprophylaxis kits to go along with our guides. That is a goal in the future. But as of right now, the guide shows you exactly what to do and where to get your remedies. It can take, because it's a pharmacy overseas, it can take up to 4 weeks to get those nosodes for immunization for that puppy. And so that is something that's very good to get those guides ahead of time, read through it. It's a very short guide, but it's the how-to and a little bit of information about that. And so you do need to do that a little bit ahead of time so that you can have those nosodes ready to go for when puppy comes home, and you can do that homeoprophylaxis protocol.
I'm also of the opinion that all puppies need training. All dogs need training throughout their lives. You know, if nothing else, it gives them something to do. But puppies really need training. Even if your puppy is just the sweetest, cutest, most adorable thing on the planet, it will behoove them to go to a puppy class with you. You're going to have to drive them, and you're going to have to do the training. But I think, like, for me, that has always helped kind of solidify my relationship with that puppy. It kind of helps them understand that, oh, when you speak, I should listen to you. Because there's, you know, you can have some very sweet dogs that are still like non-responsive. They don't come when you call them. That's you know, that can be very dangerous. That can be a life-threatening thing. Yeah. And so with every kind of training facility, any legitimate training facility, they will let you come and sit in on classes before you even get a dog, just to see, do you like the trainer? Do you like the way the class is run? Do you like the way people are spoken to in the class? Do you know, approve of the way people are handling their dogs or of the equipment? And so those kinds of things I think are well worth taking the time to do. So maybe one day a week, you know, each week you kind of go and scout out a training place near you and get some recommendations from friends and things like that.
And then that leads into kind of the last piece, which is really important, and we've touched on it before just in general, but get your team in place before the puppy is even anywhere near coming home. Find your veterinarian that you trust, that aligns with your belief system. Find the trainer or training facility that aligns with your belief system, that you're not going to have difficulty if you are choosing to raise naturally, that you're not going to have this uphill battle to climb. You know, get those pieces in place, assemble your team. You absolutely can interview different veterinarians. I know holistic veterinarians in particular love that, right? Like, don't you totally love it when people are like, what about this and what about that? Like,
I will always get on the phone with people ahead of time before they even have a dog, because I understand, you know, it's you want to make sure that you can trust the person. You want to have some contact with them before you come in and pay them good money. And so I totally get that. And the other thing too is that I get a lot of emails from people who say, we picked up our puppy on Saturday and the breeder said we need to have it examined within 72 hours. What appointments do you have available?
Too late.
I am booked out for months. And most holistic veterinarians are because there's not that many of us.
Right.
And so you want to interview people in advance, and you also want to say, okay, if I'm picking up my puppy in a month, when do I need to get that appointment scheduled?
Yep. So just get your team assembled. If you don't have them already, if you don't have any dogs right now and you're bringing home that new dog or that new puppy, just the more you can have done ahead of time, the more you can read ahead of time, the more you can do ahead of time before that, new family member is home with you, the better off you're going to be, because you're going to want to engage with them and you're going to be doing the training or, whatever else, especially with a puppy. Everybody who's raised a puppy knows that it's, it's a lot of work and it's a lot of time, and you're sleep deprived usually. And it's like by the time the puppy comes home, like you're not going to want to research much. You're not going to you're just trying to do the thing. Right.
Another thing that you had mentioned, because I've noticed, just because I have AKC breed books on hand and other breed books, they kind of make every breed sound wonderful.
Right.
And that may be true if you're using the breed for, what it was bred for. But you had a really good idea about looking on Facebook.
There's a lot, any breed, there's going to be a community of lovers of that breed on Facebook. Look for some of the bigger communities of that breed, join them, and read what people talk about. You're going to see what the bigger challenges are. You're going to see what it's really like for people to own those dogs. It's not going to be just that description on the AKC, because if you read the description for my breed on the AKC, you would never know the challenges that can come. You just wouldn't. Unless you have a breeder that's super honest. I was super honest. And will tell you the pros and cons and stuff like that. There's no way for you to know. Go see the people that really do own them and what they kind of struggle with. The last thing I'll say is, in doing that, if you are holistically minded, there is a tremendous amount of issues that can show up in a breed commonly that are actually the choices that are made, not inherent in the breed. And so you almost need to look through a lens where it's this breed is known to have allergies. But are they, though? If you remove the factors that we know about and do things correctly, I don't know that they are, right? My breed was notorious for ACL tears in the community. If you went on there, knee surgeries, ACL tears were very common throughout the breed. I know where that comes from. They are a power breed, so they're going to be more prone to that, but it really comes down to what diet were they raised on, how many vaccines were they given. All that stuff, you guys, affects the musculoskeletal system. So when I go to look for what's going on in a breed, if I'm seeing, injuries that are common, I'm going to think a little, I'm like, well, am I really going to have to worry about that if I'm limiting vaccines, if I'm feeding a raw diet, if I'm minimizing toxic load? Am I going to have to, right? And so then, of course, there's tremendous benefit to finding a natural rearing breeder that does that breed and asking them, because they're going to know that too.
And it's okay to fall in love with a breed of dog or with a line of dogs that, possibly have some health issues. That's why we feed our dogs the way we do. That's why we raise them the way we do. And so, same thing. If you're like me and you fall in love with a pretty face on the internet, I'm here to absolve you.
And the beautiful thing about that is, if the breed really is prone to certain issues, like I know Paula Vandervoort, who is a huge part, one of the co-founders of the Natural Ring Breeder Connection, she's bred boxers for over 50 years, and she will tell you, yep, heart is a heart conditions and stuff like that in boxers is a thing. She knows exactly why. She knows ways to really bolster her dog's immune systems and their bodies so that heart health is better. So it's not a deal breaker if there's health. There's going to be health stuff in probably every breed. Every breed. Just know really what you're getting into. That way you have a better perspective for what's coming in. If it's a dog that really does, their predominant, one of the problems is joint health, well, you're going to hit heavy with omega-3s and collagen.
Right.
Right?
You can get out ahead of these things.
You can.
Rather than, lying in waiting for bad things to happen.
So hopefully that was just kind of like some good things to be thinking about that not everybody thinks about, especially, you can go online and you can find all sorts of, good things to ask or good things to think about, which are great, but none of them are holistically minded. And that makes a big difference for people that know and are desiring that. They know why they want that and they're desiring that. So that's why we're just kind of like, well, we're just going to make a checklist. We're going to make one because there are things that are in general good to ask, and then from a holistically minded perspective, also good to ask and look for.
Right, because it's the difference between, getting a puppy and getting the right puppy, and then getting a healthy puppy and keeping it healthy. So.
Absolutely. All right. Well, next episode, we're actually going to be talking about puppies specifically from a natural rearing perspective, things that you want to make sure are in place, things that we referenced our guides and our stand store. We're going to kind of extrapolate on some of those things, the things that are really important to be aware of and know, special considerations for puppies so that you can raise the healthiest puppy possible. That's what we're going to talk about next time. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode, and we will see you next on the Crunchy Carnivore. Thank you so much for joining us. Our goal is always to encourage others to seek out the holistic approach by way of education and empowerment. You can check out our online resources at wellspringhaa.com. You can follow us on our YouTube channel, Wellspring Holistic Animal Academy, and you can also find us on Instagram at wellspring_HAA. We hope that this has been helpful and that you continue with us on your journey to holistic health for your pets. As always, we're here to be unapologetically all natural.